Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study. We're beginning a new study today. We're in the Old Testament. We're going to study the book of Joshua. Now, Joshua is a very significant book in the Old Testament, obviously. It tells the story of how the children of Israel entered and took possession of the promised land. So many centuries before, God had promised Abraham that your descendants will possess this land. Abraham's family had grown. You remember that eventually they went down to Egypt and were enslaved, and now for 4 centuries they had been enslaved in Egypt. But then God delivered them in the Exodus with a mighty hand and brought them out. Moses was the one chosen to bring the people of Israel out. Traveled to Mount Sinai, came into covenant with God, received the 10 Commandments. They were supposed to take possession of the promised land then. But because of their lack of faith that they could do what God had called them to do, they had to spend 40 years in the wilderness. Now, the 40 years of wilderness wandering are over. That first generation has now passed away, and now finally they're ready to possess the promised land. They're on the east bank of the Jordan River. But Moses, of course, was not going to take them in. And so Moses dies while they are camped on the east bank of the Jordan. And to really start the book of Joshua, you have to read the end of the book of Deuteronomy. Now, Deuteronomy is the last of the books of Moses, and Deuteronomy contains Moses' final word and instruction to the children of Israel before he goes to be with the Lord. And chapter 34 of Deuteronomy tells the story of the death of Moses. And I want to read just a few verses at the end of Deuteronomy because this sets the stage for the book of Joshua. So we're in Deuteronomy chapter 34, reading at verse 9. Now Joshua, son of Nun, was filled with the spirit of wisdom because Moses had laid his hands upon him. So the Israelites listened to him, and they did what the Lord had commanded Moses. Now since then, no prophet has arisen in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, who did all those signs and wonders that the Lord sent him to do in Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his officials, to the whole land. For no one has ever shown the mighty power or performed the awesome deeds that Moses did in the sight of all Israel. Moses had led the Israelites for 40 years, but now his homecoming is at hand. He's going home to be with the Lord. But he appointed Joshua. Notice that he laid hands on Joshua and commissioned him to lead the people. Moses laid his hands upon him. Well, today we would call that ordination. That's a modern term. But Moses commissioned Joshua to take the place of leadership. He laid his hands upon him. It says that the spirit of wisdom was upon him. The Israelites knew this, and so they listened to Joshua. So Moses has died. God himself buried him on the mountain. And now the children of Israel mourn, and now they're ready. They're ready to enter the promised land with Joshua as their leader. Notice verse 1 of Joshua chapter 1. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I'm about to give to them, to the Israelites. So the first word that comes to Joshua after assuming the leadership of the people is God saying, it's time. Prepare the people. You're going to cross the Jordan. You're going to cross the river and take possession of the land. The land I've promised to my children. They are now about to see the fulfillment of that promise. So ready your hearts to take the land. Ready your hearts to cross the river. And so the book of Joshua tells us how they cross the river and how they take possession of God's promise. The land of promise is to be theirs. So tomorrow we'll start looking in particular at these first few chapters of Joshua as they get their hearts ready, as they cross the Jordan and begin to take the land of promise that God is giving to them. So join us tomorrow as we continue in our 5-minute Bible study in the book of Joshua.